An extremely important evidence supporting Jesus' divinity was the prophecies that he fulfilled. It is absolutely astounding when you begin to track down each of these Old Testament prophecies about Jesus, written sometimes hundreds of years before Jesus' earthly ministry. From what town he would be born in, to how he would die, from what family he would come from, to the type of ministry that he would carry out, the messianic prophecies are dynamic and many are very detailed. Who in all the history of the world was from the seed of a woman, from the seed of Abraham, was from the tribe of Judah, and from the line of David, was both God and man, was born in Bethlehem, was preceded by a messenger, visited the temple before it was destroyed, died with pierced hands and pierced feet, and rose from the dead. There's just one individual who fulfills all of those prophecies, and I think you know who I'm talking about. As we go over these prophecies, just understand that these were written hundreds of years before they were ever fulfilled by Jesus. How do we know that they were written hundreds of years prior? Because the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are copies of almost the entire Old Testament scripture that date to before the time of Jesus, show these prophecies. For more archaeological discoveries, check out this video here. Let's first go through some of the scriptures that Jesus fulfilled. So Jesus was born in Bethlehem. This was prophesied in Micah 5:2, originally written down in around 700 BC. It says, "But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times." This is fulfilled in the 1st century AD when the New Testament was written, when Jesus is born, spoken of in Luke 2:4-7. Another prophecy prophesies two things: that Jesus would be betrayed for 30 pieces of silver, and that the silver would be used to buy a potter's field. This is prophesied in Zechariah 11:13, around 500 BC. It says, "And the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the handsome price at which they valued me. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them to the potter at the house of the Lord." Now, the first prophecy, that he would be betrayed for 30 pieces of silver, was fulfilled referring to Judas in Matthew 26:15. The second, that the silver would be used to buy a potter's field, is fulfilled in Matthew 27:6. Another prophecy in the Old Testament says that Jesus would be silent when accused. This was prophesied in Isaiah 53:7, around 700 BC, where it says, "He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a sheep to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth." This was fulfilled in Matthew 27:12-14. And Psalm 22:16 says he would be crucified, his hands and feet pierced. It says, "Dogs surround me, a pack of villains encircle me, they pierce my hands and my feet." The prophecy is fulfilled in John 19:18. Now, this is significant because what they are referring to in that Old Testament prophecy is crucifixion. But crucifixion had not even been invented yet when this was written in the book of Psalms, about 700 years before Jesus was born. Now, if you just stop there, you would have a good case that Jesus fulfilled prophecies written about him hundreds of years before he was born. However, for people who are Jewish scribes or teachers, you may have to dig a bit deeper. So let's get into it. Much of what we will be talking about was taken from the book The Case for the Real Jesus by Lee Strobel in his interview with Dr. Michael Brown. This is an excellent book to read, especially for the non-scholarly Christian. Dr. Brown is one of the leading Christian scholars in the world on the prophecies of Jesus. Dr. Brown's website, which has much more insight and content, is at askdrbrown.org. Some Jews question whether there is even any credible evidence in the Tanakh, or what Christians call the Old Testament, for a coming Messiah. Well, as Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan has contended, belief in the coming of the Messiah has always been a fundamental part of Judaism. Jewish philosopher Maimonides, who lived from around AD 1138 to 1204, counts the belief in the Messiah as one of the 13 cardinal principles of Judaism. As noted in the Case for the Real Jesus, Maimonides, whose writings are foundational to Orthodox Judaism, said in the 12th century, quote, "I firmly believe in complete faith in the coming of the Messiah, and although he may tarry, I daily wait for his coming." So the coming of the Messiah is a concept that is repeated again and again throughout the length and breadth of Jewish literature. The big question is whether Jesus of Nazareth is the one who fulfilled these ancient prophecies. The Greek word for Messiah is Christos, or Christ. Some question Jesus' virginal birth and claim that the Old Testament does not even say that the Messiah would be born virginally. However, in the Septuagint translation, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, for Isaiah 7:14, Isaiah uses the Hebrew word Alma, which means a young woman would give birth. And the Septuagint makes her virginity more explicit by using the Greek word Parthenos, which literally means virgin. And this was a couple hundred years before Jesus was born. The Bible is the only book in the world that has precise, specific predictions that were made hundreds of years in advance and that were literally fulfilled. That would mean that the Bible has credentials that are absent from the Quran of Islam, the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita of Vedanta Hinduism, and the Book of Mormon. As Dr. Michael Brown states, the Jews are God's chosen people, but it's important to understand that when God chose Abraham and his descendants, there was a divine purpose. Brown continues, it was not just to have a separated people who would be loyal to him, it was also so that through Israel, the entire world would be blessed and come to know the one true God. We need to keep that in mind as we proceed. Again, I will be referencing directly from the Case for Jesus and Lee Strobel's interview with Dr. Michael Brown, page 196, as we make the positive case for Jesus as Messiah. Now, there are specific promises given to the tribe of Judah and to David, who was from the tribe of Judah and was the son of Jesse, as is referenced from Genesis 49:10 and Isaiah 11:1. Now, Genesis 49:10 says, "The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he to whom it belongs shall come, and the obedience of the nation shall be his." Isaiah 11:1 says, "A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse, from his roots a branch will bear fruit." The term branch is commonly used to refer to the Messiah. It's said there would be a lasting kingship through David. The Lord declares it in Jeremiah 23:5. "The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will raise up for David a righteous branch, a king who will reign wisely and do what is just and right in the land." When we get to Isaiah, we see references to the servant of the Lord. A number of these verses are also recognized as referring to the Messiah in some ancient Jewish traditions. Isaiah 42 says, "He will not falter until he brings justice to the earth," from Isaiah 42:4. Isaiah 49 says the servant has the mission of regathering the tribes of Israel to bring them back to God, from Isaiah 49:6. But the servant feels as if he failed in his mission, from Isaiah 49:4. But God says not only will he ultimately regather Israel, but he adds something else in verse 6. Check this out. He says, "It is too small a thing for you to be my servant to restore the tribes of Jacob and bring back those of Israel I have kept. I will also make you a light for the Gentiles, that my salvation may reach to the ends of the earth. What about the most famous messianic prophecy of all, Isaiah 52:13 to Isaiah 53:12? See, my servant will act wisely. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. Just as there were many who were appalled at him, his appearance was so disfigured beyond that of any human being, and his form marred beyond human likeness. So he will sprinkle many nations, and kings will shut their mouths because of him. For what they were not told, they will see, and what they have not heard, they will understand. It continues on in Isaiah 53:1. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. These verses say the Messiah will be highly exalted, but first will suffer terribly. He will actually be disfigured in his suffering. And the narrative says the people of Israel didn't get it. They thought he was suffering for his own sins and wickedness. They didn't realize he was bearing their sins, suffering on their behalf, and by his wounds there was healing for them. It continues on in verse 4. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Now, Dr. Brown goes on further as he ties in the temple of God in Jesus' death and resurrection after that. We will go over that in this next video.
Hey guys, these videos take hours and hours to make. Boost my energy up by buying me a coffee in the description section of this video. Thanks so much.
And if you want to make educational videos like this, check out the Pictory link below in the description section. We'll see you in that video over there.